Hi, I'm Alana Level.
I'm Milano Buckley.
Welcome to Bare Naked Moms. Um, Kids and anxiety. It's a topic you hear just a ton about as a parent, but if you're like me, you're not exactly sure how worried to be about it. It's like life is hard. We all have anxiety as humans. When should we be worried about it? When we think we see it in our kids, or what does it even look like in our kids?
Dr. Kathy Cosgrove is joining us, and she is a seasoned psychologist who treats both adolescents and adults. She's worked as a school psychologist and the director of student support services at Marymount School, which is a school for girls in New York City. She has seen the landscape of adolescent mental health change over the years, which I think is really salient.
Yeah.
And
Through tech, in other words, through tech and beyond.
Exactly.
These days, she also works at the Counseling Center, an organization that we want to celebrate because it's in our little hometown of Bronxville, New York. It offers a range of therapists with experience in treating adults, couples, children, and families experiencing everything from anxiety to addiction to divorce. All of their therapists dedicate time to those who can't afford the full cost of treatment. So here we go.
I'm excited. It's a good one.
It's an Anxiety with Dr. Kathy Cosgrove.
No, I'm so glad we're doing this episode on anxiety because we are both like totally like just the whole setup of this show today. Like I literally, my hands are and I don't even know. You tell me if this is anxiety or if I'm having a panic attack or a heart attack. I don't know, but my hands are clammy. I'm shaking a little bit, and yeah, and my heart is racing.
So it could be.
So
it
let's
definitely
just dive.
Could be anxiety, but
let's
could
dive
just
right
be the
in.
feeling of anxiety.
Oh, okay. So wait, actual anxiety is physiological, or physical,
so
not
think of,
just a feeling.
Yes and no. So anxiety, kind of fundamentally, if you think back to like caveman days, is rooted in our fight or flight response. So the feeling and then the physiological reactivity of anxiety are like kind of they're there to protect us. The problem is, I think today
if a tiger's in the room, it's good that we're anxious.
Your body physiologically,
if a tiger's in the room,
right? Your body physiologically revs up.
Yeah, we need to
decide,
be ready to either fight that
right.
tiger or get the heck out.
Right. The problem is, I think nowadays we use anxiety disorders and stress like interchangeably, and they're three different things. Right. So the anxiety feeling or physiologically your body getting anxious because something is making you nervous is totally normal. And we need to actually, I think, as a society, do normalize that. And then you have anxiety disorder, which is different than the feeling of anxiety. And then you have stress, which is different than anxiety as well. So I think like as a starting point, you have to actually separate what those things are. Stress is like you have an external stimulus that's stressful, right? So you have a big test, a big presentation, whatever it might be. And you might have the feeling of anxiety when you're getting ready to do whatever the stressful thing is or leading up to it. But as soon as the stressful thing is over, it goes away. Anxiety and anxiety disorders are like more of a persistent, chronic experience where the physiological reactivity that you were describing, like the sweaty hands, the clamminess, the heart racing, happen consistently or happen either to something that's, bothering you or more than we would want it to. And then you have kind of the ruminating thoughts. Like when I work with people who have anxiety disorders, their thinking often convinces them the worst case scenario is an absolute, right? So when you work with like kids, for example, or teenagers, they'll be like, I'm going to fail my chem test. And then suddenly they're not getting into college. And like realistically, you're like, right, one test is not doing anything in your life, but anxiety convinces you it does. The disorder.
I feel like anxiety in kids it's practically a rallying cry among parents these days.
Mm-hmm.
It's so in the moment in the discussion, but unlike the rest of us, you're really on the front lines of all this. And all of your experience counseling kids, are you actually seeing more of it than when you first started work, say?
So definitely from when I first started work. So I would say even prior to COVID, we were seeing an uptick of anxiety and depression. And there was some research that was starting to come out that was saying, obviously, social media and technology were playing a factor. And, I think back then, at least, there were some thoughts that also social media and technology was also extremely helpful. I think our thinking is more nuanced now. But particularly in families with kids, or like in neighborhoods that had high achieving populations, we were seeing this uptick. And the thought was that these kids, in part because of parental expectations and pressure, but also because of societal or socially normative pressures in their communities, were starting to lose the ability to make mistakes. Everything felt like if you made a mistake, that was it. That was like your college written, you were done. And then kids were losing the ability to develop senses of purpose and passion. Right. And it's not uncommon for me to meet kids who are like, I'm doing this, I hate it, but my mom or my dad says it's going to be really good for college. So prior to COVID, we were seeing this uptick, particularly in kind of higher SES type of families, et cetera. And they were actually starting to call kind of private school populations, wealthier communities, high risk community. And there was some data that even said they were as high risk as kids who were struggling with poverty, homelessness, et cetera. Then obviously COVID hit, right? And so kids, for obviously a host of reasons, anxiety and depression kind of skyrocketed. And I would say probably my worst 2 years of working, particularly in a school system, were like 21, 22. Just the amount actually of mental illness, I don't think changed. The severity did. I think we're kind of recalibrating. I think we're moving back to where we were pre-COVID in some ways. But even that, we're not, our kids are struggling in a way that they weren't 20, 30 years ago.
Can I jump on that
Yeah.
at the back of that? Because you are saying that our kids are struggling, and I believe you. I don't know that I know all the time. Sometimes it's clear, but I don't know if I know all the time how to recognize anxiety in my kids and also in myself. I might be a little bit better at recognizing it in myself, but like, I think that, this is who I am as like just a person. If someone comes to me and says, oh my God, I am just so nervous about this test, or, my friends are all like fighting and it's like super stressful. I don't know what to do in the playground tomorrow at lunch. And like, I'm like, oh, got you. Like, let's, draw a diagram. Let's troubleshoot this. Let's workshop it. Like I'm here for you, girl. But I don't think, and I know, but I know, or I sense that that's not how anxiety always presents, especially in my children. And I don't know that I'm great at recognizing it in other presentations.
So I think that first, the biggest one is change, right? Your kids, their baselines. So I think whenever something feels remarkably different than it normally does, that should set off some sort of signal. And it might not be anxiety, it could be a host of things. But if your child suddenly seems different, I would start to get curious. I think depending on the age of a child, so a little one versus like a teenager, anxiety can come off as big emotions, right? And particularly at home, right? Parents, we're kind of the dumping ground, the punching bags for everything that's gone wrong. So kids, particularly when they come home from school, might have had, been really anxious all day, struggling all day, and they held it together because that's what they have to do. But then they get home and you kind of get the floodgates of everything that went wrong. And I think as a parent, that's like a very hard moment because you can kind of join the floodgate, right? And sometimes inadvertently make it worse. Or you can try to kind of contain, validate, hold the floodgate, and then problem solve thereafter. So I think when you have big emotions, for sure. Also, kids with anxiety can have like physical symptoms like stomach aches, not sleeping at night, that type of thing. So, you always want to rule out a physical, like any sort of actual physical condition that might be causing it. But if your child has stomach aches every single time they're going to play soccer, I think it's worth questioning why might that be. And then I think the other thing is like the worst case scenario, catastrophizing, predicting that anxiety can bring to you. So when, a kid comes in, they say, well, I'm not going to make the soccer team and then no one's going to sit with me at lunch. That can be a form of anxiety, not necessarily a disorder, but just really anxious thinking. So I feel like any of those types of things are kind of your warning signs. But again, I always feel like parents are their experts on their kids. you know what your kids' baselines are, right? And so when your child starts to kind of deviate from their baseline in a way that feels like this is weird, it's always good to be like, what might be going on? And it could also just be development, right? Like kids start to they move off their baseline when they're like in seventh grade, because seventh graders can be really difficult. And they're trying to like change and try different personalities and stuff like that on. I think as a parent, the number one thing we can do and that we often miss is just listen. I think parents, like we are so well intentioned, and we're getting in there and we're going to make that diagram of like, these are the 6 things you could do for that kid who's being mean to you at school. But sometimes that's not what they need. Sometimes they just need us to be like, that really stinks. That's really hard.
Yeah. Would you even say that most of the time they need that response you just described? Just like Brene Brown makes this analogy to kind of sitting in the darkness with your kids as opposed to like turning on the lights and fixing things, like just sitting there with them. And it really resonates with me. I'm curious just like how often you think that's true versus like, here are some actionable items that we can take.
Right. I think it's always true. And you can ask, I mean, again, your kid, you can say, do you want me to help right now or listen? Right. Or, you come up with language around it. Like, am I problem solving right now? Or do you just need me to be a sounding board for what's happening? Kids are pretty good at being like, yeah.
I like that. Ask them. What do you need from me? Yeah.
I happened upon this somewhere. It doesn't matter where, but maybe it was the New York Times, like Motherload or something. And it was all about this. And the line is, do you want to be heard, helped, or hugged? Right. That's the
which also works in like marriage or relationships.
It works in
right? It works
all
in
of this stuff.
Parent-child.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of the stuff that we learn about parenting actually at its core is applicable to every human relationship.
I think the difference between all relationships and parenting is that we all, and I think particularly moms, feel a tremendous pressure to be experts and like to be perfect in what we do. Right.
We're creating this essentially.
Oh, absolutely. We create it. Right. So,
this culture of perfectionism.
Yeah. You might know as a mom, like, I just need to listen right now, but you're like, I need to listen. Oh, I'm going to like tap into my Brene Brown. I'm going to tap into my Lisa D'Amour. I'm going to tap into all like Catherine Price, all these people. And I'm going to deliver the perfect mom moment. And the reality is we don't do it. And then we feel bad. And then we try to overcome. Right. So we become our own worst enemies as well in these moments and trying to fix it.
That's really helpful.
Can I ask,
makes a lot of sense
in this world of anxiety, how you try to support your own kids? I hear that they're competitive athletes.
Yeah, I do have 2 kids who are competitive swimmers. Swimming is like its own beast as a sport because it's everybody knows exactly what you got, right? And there are all these databases where you can pull up how fast somebody swam, and 1/100th of a second matters. But there's really no debating how good you are, right? Because your numbers don't lie. So I think I think it's a phenomenal sport and teammates, all that stuff. But as a athlete, I think it can be very hard because you're always chasing a number and you're always chasing a cut. So I try to highlight the things that bring joy, right? Like the trips, things like that. And I find that when they have, and this is more of, I think, where you see the anxious kind of responses or emotionally driven kind of responses, is when they don't swim the way they want. I have learned how to de-escalate those moments. And I feel like I'll be sitting in like, the extraordinarily warm stands with other moms, and like someone's like, oh, so-and-so is quitting swimming today. And like, you can see this, I hate swimming, I stink, blah, blah, blah. And to not engage with it in a way that doesn't make it worse is important. And I actually read
we have some examples.
Yeah, I actually I read something, I can't remember where, that girls, when they text their moms, like, this person sucks and I hate this and I'm no good and whatever, when you respond over text, you actually make it worse. As a mom, that the interaction is much better if you like call and say, hey, I know you didn't, get what you wanted or achieve what you wanted. I love you. Like, have fun, go hang out with so-and-so. And that actually has much more power in calming them down than trying to engage with them over these text conversations.
That's really good advice.
Isn't that interesting? I thought that was fascinating. But it's because that generation is so inclined to do everything like snap text, right? Like, it's all instantaneous,
it's immediate,
and emotion. And to slow it down and have the human interaction actually helps more.
What if you can't talk to them in that moment? Like you can't get them on the phone because, they're not allowed to be on their phone or whatever. Is it just is it like, we're going to talk about this later, but like in a more nurturing way?
Yeah. I mean, I think it is being able to say like, I know you're frustrated or I know you're disappointed. Like, I love you, try to focus on the things that you know that they like. So try to focus on hanging out with so-and-so or like, going out for pizza afterwards. And like, we can totally talk about this after.
Yeah.
Or like, some vote of confidence, like, not quite shake it off, but something like, you got this. Like one setback doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And then you can do like, then you can do like the annoying parenting talk afterwards where like mistakes are important and not always getting what you want teaches us how to grow and learn, right? That's actually one of the purposes of anxiety. Anxiety is supposed to push you to your limits so that hey, I can actually do that, right? So, but that's afterwards. And that's the talk that we give them that we don't think they're listening to, but they hopefully are. And they apply it in the future.
Dr. Cosgrove, you brought up social media. And I mean, it's so much in the conversation these days, almost too much. But I have to ask, in your experience, the role you see social media playing in kids' anxiety these days.
The reality, I have a lot of different thoughts. I think nothing in moderation is horrific, right? When I say that, I'm not necessarily talking about Snapchat and TikTok and the algorithms they use to basically make you connected and make you think in certain ways. I think these tools can be phenomenal ways for people to stay connected. And it definitely was during COVID, right? And I think, nowadays it's how they communicate. I think things like Snapchat or TikTok, etc., can be very damaging to our kids because of how they work, right? Max Stossel, who runs the Social Awakening, talks about how doing like TikTok is like it's like being at the slot machines where you like scroll, hit, right? And you never know when you're scrolling what you're going to find appealing, but you keep scrolling until you get that hit. And that is how that basically corrupts your brain. And so I feel like that kind of stuff seems really scary. I think for girls in particular, but for guys too, when you look at how much somebody puts into the perfect TikTok or perfect Instagram post or whatever it might be, it creates a culture of comparison that is unattainable, right? And I think there can be meanness, that, back in the day when we were mean to somebody, you passed a note that like maybe the teacher found, right? Or you made fun of them kind of behind their backs, but to their face in real time. Stuff that lives on the internet lives on the internet. Right. So
it's so accessible to so many people in less than a time that it takes you to snap your fingers.
It is. And
the virality of it.
We say stuff online that we would never say in person. Right. So the other thing too, I think is like, I'll have kids who come in and they'll like read me this whole exchange they had on Snap. Whereas like, if you had had that exchange in person, you might've been like, and then she said something super mean and maybe you have 4 or 5 words that they said that were super mean in your head, but you're not literally replaying the entire conflict you had in like over and over and over again. So I think we need to do something about it. I suspect 10, 15 years from now, we're going to be like, why didn't we put more limits on social media? And, but so I think as parents, we do have to really lock down, particularly if you have younger children, lock down what your rules are going to be on technology and make them, and like from the time they're tiny and stick to it.
You have a boy and a girl. I have 2 boys and a girl. Milano has 2 boys and a girl. And you have spent all of this time working in such a wonderful girls' school. By the way, I went to Sacred Heart. The Marymount was like very close to us.
Yeah.
How do you see what do we need to know about anxiety in girls versus anxiety in boys?
I mean, what the research says is that girls tend to be people pleasers, and girls tend to be more perfectionistic, right? So I think about, even if I compare my own 2 kids, what done homework looks like is very different for my 2 kids. Now they're totally different humans and learners, etc. But
so true.
But I have my daughter will be like, I had to write 5 sentences and I wrote 10. Right. And my son will be like, I wrote 5 sentences and they weren't even like complex sentences. They just answered the question. Right. and that,
are they
right,
even grammatically correct
right.
sentences?
I mean,
in
and
my,
boys,
in my
boys,
case.
boys are right. Boys are just different. They're like, it said to do 5 sentences. I'm only going to do 5, right? Girls are like, it says 5, but they might be tricking me. They might be like messing with me. They might actually want more than that. And they didn't tell me that. I'm going to make sure I do extra, right? Because I want the teacher to like me. I want my parents to be happy. I want my friends to think I'm smart, whatever the narratives that they have are. So because of that, girls run the risk of being more anxious, right? Because there's in some ways a higher standard they're holding themselves to. It's why when you look at the data, girls tend to do better in school, but have a harder time with the kind of school to job transition. Because I can't say how many women I work with in their 20s who were like straight A students, loved school, and now are floundering in their careers because they don't have that kind of constant feedback of an A or the constant feedback of you're doing a good job.
Wow. That's interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Next up is email avalanche, inbox avalanche. I also have a really hard time with this. Talk about fight or flight. I kind of do the other thing, which is fight or flight has evolved into or expanded.
Mm-hmm.
Fight, flight, or freeze. Yep. And when it comes to like the inbox avalanche, I freeze.
Meaning from like school and activities?
Yes, like school, sports, activities.
I think in general, like schools and teens tend to send out too much information.
Totally.
Right. And so, it maybe when you live in like a month or two of the school year and how many emails, then you kind of differentiate like which ones do I actually have to read versus not.
I do end up missing some key information though,
right.
About like where my kid's supposed to be and when.
Maybe that's okay though.
But maybe is that okay? Another permission I'm asking. Is that okay for me not to know?
I think it's okay for you sometimes to not know. And it's okay for you to sometimes make mistakes. You are human, right? And I think like that's a wonderful example for your kids. I mean, obviously you don't want to miss something that's like huge. But I also think if something's huge, you're going to get 8,000 emails about it at some point.
True. Which I do. I'm like the last person, the administrator is like, hi, you still haven't sent payment for the Philadelphia trip.
Right. Right.
So I do know that they're going to find me. They know where I live.
Right. If it's really important, you will find out. But I also feel like if you make a mistake and you miss, oops, I was supposed to send in, for such and such day, or you were supposed to be dressed like, whatever today and you didn't.
Pajama day.
Right.
Yeah. Crazy hair day.
I think, right. I think you just say, like, you just normalize it. Like, I made a mistake and I am really sorry. And you teach your kids that you are human and they're going to make mistakes too. Right. Like, I think where you run into difficulties if you mess up because you're avoiding your inbox is if you pretend you didn't mess up because you avoided your inbox.
I'm totally on board with like grace. I just want to, I want to eradicate the feeling that I get, the anxiety feeling. I just want to not feel this way. I want to not have like, and I do think that there's like, I don't know if it's shame, you tell me, you're the expert, but there is a comparison thing going on here, of like, why is this so hard for me? Like, why does this bring me anxiety? It's just a stupid email. Like, why does Alana here not get as flustered and flapped, by a stupid inbox? Like, why can I not process information quicker or have a better filing, like scanning system, And I think that, right? Would you say that is that part of where my anxiety is rooted?
Yes, because you have some sort of expectation for yourself that has some sort of negative outcome or consequence for not meeting it. Right. So you're like, good moms check their inbox and know everything that's going on in their kids' lives. I'm going to do that. And then you don't do it for whatever reason. And you're like, see, I'm not as good of a mom as Alana or whomever else I'm making my comparison to. So I think like freeing yourself of that, like you're doing your best.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing your best. And if it makes you, if like the organization piece and avoidance piece is what kicks in, right? Because anxiety breeds avoidance. Anxiety is like, if you just don't do it, then you don't have to deal with it, right? But then it always becomes bigger than it is. Create some sort of system. Like I'm going to drink my coffee in the morning and check my email, and then get my glass of wine at night and check my email, and that's going to be my time. Mm-hmm. But whatever feels most comfortable to you.
As we wind down, do you want to do a lightning round?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. Here we go. If you could go back in time and give your new mom self a piece of advice, what would you say to her?
Don't worry about what other moms are doing.
Compare and despair. It's so true.
And
Compare and
Find your
despair.
moms. Find your moms.
What if you don't have moms? What do you mean?
No, meaning
find
like
your people. Find your mom buddies.
Find your people. Like I have.
But what if you don't have a mom, Kathy?
Like I have like my mom group of like the people who parent similarly, who think similarly, who we can make fun of moms who we think are being, a little nuts. You have to find those people.
Well, yeah, you seem to have it all figured out. I'm just kidding. You don't. But you are an expert and we're talking about anxiety. So I'm going to bring it back to the doom and the gloom. What is your parent anxiety? Where does it live? What is it called?
My parent anxiety is my kids not being happy and like not getting what they want, like not like in the moment getting what they want, but in their lives, not getting what they want. That makes sense. It's kind of more existential, but
big
that
picture
they're
thing.
not happy. Right. And the headmistress who just retired from Marymount would always say, like, a mother can only be as happy as her unhappiest child. And I firmly believe that is true. So what keeps me up at night is like, are they happy? I noticed something. We didn't talk about it. I think something's going on. That stuff.
Thank you so much for all this wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And it was such a delight to chat with you.
Same here.
We're
so
grateful for your time.
Same here.
Maybe we should just talk a little bit about we just have gotten through this incredibly anxious season of
I'm very anxious.
Back to school. Yeah. Like what's been kind of making you the most anxious over the past, in this particular back to school season?
All the communications.
Oh yeah.
Communications makes me really anxious. Like all of the emails. And I feel like I need to be chained to my desk and to my computer in order to have a sense of calm and peace about it. Because if I step away or have a day where we're podcasting or, I'm going into the city for something, it fills me. I can feel it just talking about it with this tension. And I think I don't know what to do. I've thought about so many different ways to manage it, systems to create, to mitigate the overwhelm.
Yeah.
It's just it feels like an avalanche. And it's this between all, the three sets of teachers, the two principals, the sports teams, the after school stuff, the orthodontist, the dentist, the doctor's appointments, the play date invitations, the paperless posts about all the birthday parties there. I'm who's this for? Okay, it's and I just constantly feel like I'm dropping 10 balls at any given time and moment.
I keep hearing from people in the know about tech, about AI assistants.
Yeah,
maybe you should look into that.
But
apparently we should look into it. I don't really know the details, but apparently there are these services and they're in your email and it's you're giving them directions what are the bullet points that I need to know for my inbox for this week? Whatever. You come up with different parameters for what you want the AI to accomplish. And apparently it can be really effective.
I believe you and I believe all the people who say that. I just feel when I hear that, there's an alarm signal going off in my head that's that's one more thing. It's one more learning curve. It's one more thing to learn. It's one more thing to understand and manage and direct.
Yeah.
And it's like transcendental meditation. I know it would definitely help me. It's just figuring out how to carve out. It's carving out the space.
It's not even carving out the time to do it. It's carving out the space,
the brain
to
space.
Learn how to do it.
Right. Well, and that's time too. But the bandwidth.
Yeah. It's I feel like I could set aside the meditation time, but it's the time to learn how to do the to onboard the meditation.
Onboard. Yeah. And that's in bandwidth. It's a whole another brain layer of my brain.
Yeah.
That's going to be outsourced.
So I've been most stressed out about having a kid who is starting he's a junior. So he's starting the college process basically. Yeah. And it relates to so many of the things we talk about because I want to just hand over the reins and be you got this kid. go follow your dreams. And also, like, we're not setting crazy expectations. We basically just want him to feel like happy and confident about wherever he ends up.
Okay. Is that like a totally honest statement?
It is. I don't care whether he goes to the Ivy League.
Well, what about like the Ivy League is like 7 schools. What about like, there's like,
you're making fun of me about like all
multiple,
the other schools.
yes.
No, yes. Okay. Am I being honest? I mean, I would like for him to, you know what? I truly want him to go to a school that he feels good about.
Okay. Fair.
And, there are a whole range that I think would achieve that.
Okay.
Really,
Okay.
really and truly.
Okay. I believe that.
But we were just talking about it in an earlier podcast. There's just all of these feelings. It's my internal battle over taking a step back and letting the chips fall where they may and involving myself in supporting him, like setting up scaffolding, reminders, tutors, to do all the things. Maybe I'm even hurting him by trying to help so much. And then trying to battle the fear that if I don't do all those things, he won't reach his P word potential.
The P word. It's the P word.
That's so controversial.
Well, the stakes feel so high. And it's like no one wants, you don't want to like go to mom
It's just
jail.
like the timing.
Yeah.
It's just like there's no room to mess up.
Right. Did you have a lot of scaffolding like with this, did your parents help you a lot and set up a lot of like
That's a good question.
hand holding?
I was an only child. There was hand holding.
Mm-hmm. But you were, okay.
Yeah.
About like deadlines and what you need to do.
But I also was like I was pretty on it.
Yeah.
I think it's also different with girls and boys.
Such a different time too.
I think when girls are the oldest siblings in your family, you have this experience and they kind of carry forward the ball. And I think it's a little different with boys. I love the boys, but it's a little different with them.
All right. Thank you to Dr. Cosgrove for making all these fascinating thought bubbles and for being with us today. We hope you enjoyed the conversation.